Thank you, conference, and thank you, Gillian, for that warm welcome. And I'm delighted that we're meeting here in Sheffield. Did you know that Green councillors have held seats in this city centre ward for 7 years now? Yesterday I was given a tour of the area and visited 2 schemes they're supporting to help strengthen the local economy. Sheffield Renewables promotes the development of renewable energy and is run by and for local people. And Regather is a co-op that gets local traders together to exchange ideas and services and kickstart local projects. These are exactly the kind of forward-thinking local schemes that the Green Party wants to see everywhere, not just in Sheffield. And our hard-working Green councillors are not resting with that. They're pressing the council to protect share start centres, to invest more in renewable energy, and to bring in a citywide 20s-plenty speed limit. These are practical positive measures which don't get political backing without Green councillors. It was clear from my tour yesterday that councillors Rob Murphy and Gillian Creasy are held in high regard by local residents. And it showed this year when the voters in this ward ignored Labour's vocal citywide campaign and chose Gillian to be their councillor again. Well done, Gillian, and keep up the good work. And of course there's another reason why it's significant that we're meeting in Sheffield. This is the city where Lib Dem leader Nick Clegg has his parliamentary seat. Do you remember only 16 months ago, before the general election, his popularity was at an all-time high? Isn't it amazing how quickly the gloss has come off? And how quickly those I agree with Nick t-shirts have come off too? As the Lib Dem leadership showed their true colours and their coalition government policies began to bite, the extent of their betrayal of voters became clear. And while some Lib Dem MPs were selling their political souls, many more rank-and-file supporters were shocked at what the Lib Dems actually did when given a taste of power. In the last year, we've seen former Lib Dem voters, members, activists and councillors realise that there is an alternative which won't sell out, that there is a progressive party of principle. We've seen them join the Green Party. Nick, I think you'll find they now agree with us. Of course, it's no surprise that voters and activists are deserting the Lib Dems, and that Green candidates are beating Lib Dems in election after election across the country. As soon as they settled for fancy job titles and a second-class referendum, they turned into little more than eager juniors fetching and carrying for their boarding school seniors. Did they really believe the Tories when they promised no major change to the NHS, after Adrian Ramsay had been plotting upheaval for years? Do they really think they've achieved much with a fresh consultation and tweaks to their plans? Make no mistake, the Tory Lib Dem proposals threaten the founding principles of our National Health Service, and they do this by shifting more responsibility and delivery of healthcare out of public hands. The Secretary of State would no longer have to guarantee health services are provided across the country. It'd only have to promote universal coverage. But what does promote actually mean? A government billboard saying, Tesco dentists coming here soon, every filling helps? The government's plan is one where private companies provide services commissioned by GPs, paid for by taxpayers. But the British Medical Association is clear. Most GPs want to focus on treating patients, not commissioning. Most doctors aren't interested in an internal market competing for sickness contracts. They believe in the NHS as a cooperative of caring professionals pulling together. This spirit was eroded by successive Tory and Labour governments as hospitals became trusts bidding against one another. Suddenly a clever way to make a hip operation cheaper became a commercial advantage to guard, not an innovation to share. As private business gets involved in public services, cooperation suffers. Fundamentally, businesses care about profit, not people, about wealth, not health. They'll bid for the services that are easiest to run or squeeze money from, not expensive care that's hard to deliver. What's left of the NHS will be starved of the money that private companies cream off. Why don't other parties ever learn that farming things out to the private sector doesn't save money, but does compromise quality? We saw it when Labour promoted PFI for hospitals and schools. The Green Party warned that this would compromise quality. We said it would put us in debt to private companies for decades. And the recent report by the Treasury Select Committee agreed. But a few MPs realising is not enough. We need them all to learn the lessons of past failures. That NHS privatisation is a bad deal for the patient and a bad deal for the taxpayer. It does matter who delivers your care, not just what it costs. Now we have a clear message for this government. We're proud of the NHS. We still believe in healthcare free at the point of delivery. We still believe in healthcare based on clinical need, not ability to pay. We haven't stopped believing in healthcare to meet the needs of everyone, and we reject your privatisation. With so many crucial public services being axed across the country, it's hard to foresee the extent of the devastation. But it's clear who will suffer most. The elderly, low-income families, carers, refugees, disabled people. When David Cameron says we should do more with less, does he mean we should do less for those with least? If we don't stand up for the vulnerable, society as a whole loses out. Ignoring people's problems today only stores up greater problems for tomorrow. Closing daycare centres for the elderly will increase hospital admission costs. Ending HIV prevention schemes will increase chronic illness care costs. Axing employment services for young people will increase benefit costs. In every case, a short-term financial gain means long-term human, social and economic pain. And young people in particular are affected by these cuts. The government claims that the cuts are necessary for the future of our children. The future of whose children exactly? All but the most privileged will see their future opportunities harmed by these cuts. According to Save the Children, 1.6 million children in the UK are living in severe poverty. The numbers of young people going into care are increasing, and child protection referrals are rising dramatically. What is the government doing to support the most vulnerable children and young families? They've slashed the grants to local councils that paid for vital children's and youth services. Across the country, counselling and support services that have helped thousands of young troubled families are facing closure. And it's not just the vulnerable young people who are let down by these cuts. Scrapping the educational maintenance allowance and trebling university tuition fees makes it harder for millions of young people to access education. With the three old parties constantly letting them down, is it any wonder that so many young people feel down about the future? The government is forcing them to fend for themselves in a world with dwindling job prospects, spiralling education costs, widening gap between rich and poor, and no support for young people in crisis. Young people see the promise of a bright future snatched away by the very generation of leaders who benefited from free university education. They find themselves being punished for the mistakes of greedy bankers and foolish politicians. It's shameful. And young people would not have fared much better with Labour in power. Tuition fees were Labour's idea, and cuts were always part of their plan. Labour once had a vision for young people, but long ago lost its way. A decade of power, their record of economic disarray, their political principles threadbare, their vision lost. And that's why we continue to win support from former Labour activists who value our strong commitment to social justice and protecting public services. People like former Labour councillor Liz Campbell, who is now our first Green councillor in Milton Keynes. Welcome, Liz. You are among friends who share your values. You are in a party that has a vision for a better future. We say the future of our country depends on young people. We say the future of our economy depends on young people. We say there is an alternative. We can and we must invest in young people. So what should the government be doing to move things forward? Greens believe that the government should focus on building a new kind of economy with skilled, lasting jobs. We could create 1 million new jobs in the UK in areas like public transport, renewable energy, home insulation, local agriculture and local manufacturing. With so much work to be done, it makes sense for government to invest in future and invest in people. And at a local level, Green councillors are showing what can be done. Council after council is putting in place Green Party policies to strengthen their local economy. In Brighton, Norfolk, Reading and here in Sheffield, councillors are following the Kirklees example and installing solar panels on council properties. By doing this, we reduce carbon emissions, create an income stream for the council and create new skilled jobs. And by doing this, we also take action to cut our addiction to oil. Action that needs to be happening at a national level. So why isn't the government investing in these long-term solutions? It's because the Conservatives and the Lib Dems are dinosaurs still fixated on fossil fuels. They're planning to go ahead. They're planning to go ahead with deep-sea oil drilling off the west coast of Scotland, despite the lesson of the Gulf of Mexico disaster. So what alternatives does Lib Dem Energy Secretary Chris Huhne have planned? Despite Lib Dem pre-election promises, Mr Huhne is pressing ahead with plans for a new generation of nuclear power stations. This uranium U-turn is supposedly okay, because they're now promising there will be no government subsidies. But what about the hundreds of millions of pounds worth of hidden government subsidies that are vital to the plans? So, Mr Huhne, who's picking up the £70 billion tab to decommission the existing nuclear reactors? And what's the bill going to be to clean up after your new ones? Come to think of it, have you sorted out where you're going to put the waste for the next 10,000 years? And if the world's most advanced nuclear country, Japan, can't guarantee the safety of its nuclear reactors, or even clean up properly after a disaster, explain to us, Mr Huhne, why you are prioritising nuclear power over safer, cleaner, cheaper, renewable solutions.